This is my 2025 reading log, also known as my bookworm. Every time I finish a new book, we add a new bauble onto the bookworm's body. But the problem is, y'all, I have been in a reading slump since like March. But now that I'm officially out of my reading slump and we're officially halfway through the year, today we are going to be fully updating our bookworm. We're gonna talk about every book I've read so far this year. We're gonna add 5 new baubles to our bookworm's body. We're gonna talk a little bit about how I got into and how I got out of my reading slump. And then if we have time today, we might grab Josh and Tilly and go to the bookstore because, well, for one, I wanna grab some new books. But two, I heard that there is this like pet-friendly bookstore in Nashville and I'm dying to check it out. All right, does everybody have a fun, cozy drink? Today I am actually drinking a poppy and my little whimsical wine glass because I don't know, drinking everything out of my little whimsical wine glasses just makes me feel so cozy and cute. And does everyone have their work in progress that maybe you're avoiding a little bit right now, but you could totally be working on while you're watching this video? Let's dive in and update my bookworm. So if you're new to the series, every bauble on our bookworm represents a different book and every color represents a different genre. Something cool about what's happening right now is I don't have to change colors because back to back, these 2 books are the same genre. I'm gonna do a quick little throwback and let my past self tell you about which color is which genre. And y'all have to let me know in the comments if you like the choices that I made for each genre. Okay, I think I found all the colors. Well, almost all the colors. I read a lot of fantasy, so for starters, we are going to be dividing up fantasy between general fantasy, fantasy with dragons, and fantasy with fae. Sci-fi, anything to do with self-improvement, growth, anything related to like my job, general fiction outside of fantasy, and nonfiction. The only color I couldn't find that I really want to use is red. I don't know, to me, dystopian novels just feel red, and they did not have a red in this type of yarn, so I will be checking online to see if I can grab some red yarn for my dystopian novels. So now that you know which colors are which genres, I want to take a second, in case you're new here, to tell you which books I have read so far this year. Towards the end of last year, I started reading the Throne of Glass series, so I did end up finishing the Throne of Glass series this year. So the first book I finished at the beginning of the year was Tower of Dawn, and y'all, if you watched the first episode of this series when we were starting our bookworm, it was this whole debate. It was this whole thing of trying to figure out if Tower of Dawn was just fantasy or fantasy with fae, because the world of Throne of Glass includes fae. But in the book Tower of Dawn, it only follows the human characters. So I was like, is it fantasy with fae? Is it just fantasy? I literally asked all my friends who have read the books and they all said 50-50. And then I asked all of you guys, I was like, anyone who has read these books, is Tower of Dawn just fantasy or fantasy with fae? Y'all, out of like hundreds of votes, because I literally like tallied them all up, just plain fantasy won by one vote, one singular vote. So originally this little bauble was crocheted green to represent just fantasy, and then I kept crocheting the body and it started driving me crazy because I was like, I think it's actually fantasy with fae. I'm sorry, I feel like this whole tangent is like this super weird sub-niche section of thoughts, but if you get it, you get it. You know, if you've read Throne of Glass, I feel like you'll understand what I'm saying with my debate of is Tower of Dawn fantasy with fae or just fantasy. Needless to say, once I was 3 or 4 baubles into our worm, I actually ended up frogging our worm and recrocheting our worm to replace the first bauble to make it fantasy with fae. Because even though the fae characters aren't in that book, fae are still such a huge part of that world. So I didn't think that it was fully accurate to just say fantasy. And for anyone wondering, like, why are you separating fantasy with dragons, fantasy with fae, just plain fantasy? I read a lot of fantasy, and I really didn't want the worm to be like almost all the same color. I really wanted the worm to be like really dynamic with a lot of colors. So I thought that like the subgenres were kind of necessary. I don't know if that was the right idea or not, but I stand by it. So after Tower of Dawn, which is the second to last book in the Throne of Glass series, you would think that I'd jump straight into the last book of the Throne of Glass series, Kingdom of Ash, but no, I did not. I did not, because you know what happened next? A friend sent me a book in the mail. A friend who had been telling me to read Recursion by Blake Crouch for 2 years sent me Recursion by Blake Crouch in the mail. And y'all, when your friend sends you a book in the mail, you read it. You know your friend really wants you to read it. I devoured this book in like 1 night, maybe 2 nights. So good. Absolutely incredible. I've only read a few things by Blake Crouch, but I've loved everything I've read so far. The ones I've read have been like darker sci-fis that just kind of make you question the world and reality and our place in it. And it was really cool. Highly recommend Recursion by Blake Crouch if you like dark sci-fi. Now my 3rd book of the year is still not the final book of the Throne of Glass series, because if you are a romantasy reader, you know what happened in January. In January, Onyx Storm came out, which is the 3rd book in the 4th Wing series. But the problem is, last year, I actually DNF'd Iron Flame. I just like wasn't super into it. But then January rolls around and then all my friends are rereading Fourth Wing and Iron Flame and they're getting ready for Onyx Storm. And I was like, I want to be a part of this. I was like, I want to read Onyx Storm with my friends. So I did pick up Iron Flame again, which is the second book in the Fourth Wing series. I finished it and I did end up really, really enjoying it. So this bauble is fantasy with dragons and it was Iron Flame. I finished Iron Flame basically right when Onyx Storm came out. But for some reason, instead of jumping straight into Onyx Storm, which is down here, I decided to pause and read a book that I should have read probably 15 years ago in school, but I never read. Animal Farm. Y'all, I read Animal Farm in one evening. It's a very, very quick read. If you have not read Animal Farm, please read Animal Farm. I don't know why it was never required reading for me in school. I know that a lot of people were required to read it in school. I feel like even if you read it in school, read it again. Animal Farm, I feel like, is a very, very, very important book for people to read. I understand why this is required reading in most schools. I wish I had read it then, but I'm really, really glad that I read it now. If you have not read Animal Farm, highly recommend. And finally, on to our last two baubles. We have Onyx Storm that I did read with my friends, and I'm really glad that I did. And it was really, really fun to catch up on the Fourth Wing series with everyone, to talk about the cliffhangers, to talk about the fan theories. I really enjoyed Onyx Storm. And finally, our last bauble, we are back to Fantasy with Fae, and this was the last book in the Throne of Glass series. And now y'all, everyone warned me that I was going to go into a reading slump after I finished Throne of Glass. And I was like, no, there's so many books I want to read. I'm absolutely not going to go into a reading slump after I finish Throne of Glass. I went into a reading slump after I finished Throne of Glass. Now it's really hard for me to tell how much of my reading slump was due to the fact that Throne of Glass was finally over and I was just really sad, and how much of my reading slump was due to some things that happened in my life, because if you've watched all my videos, you know. But I had a pretty rough spring, and I won't go into it too much because on this channel we try to keep everything very cozy, very safe feeling. We try not to talk about triggering topics on this channel. But in April of this year, I lost my grandma, and then 2 weeks later, I lost one of my dearest friends. And it's strange. I think that I kind of expected myself to dive into books as a part of my grieving process, but I didn't. I really didn't. I honestly just kind of struggled getting back into books. Where I thought I would lose myself in stories, it kind of had like the opposite effect, and I feel like I kind of just couldn't read for a little while. But as I started to heal, I did eventually feel in the mood to read again. And the first book that I picked up to read, because everyone was talking about it, everyone was reading it, was Quicksilver. Y'all, I don't know if it's just because I was still coming out of my reading slump and dealing with a lot of things emotionally, and also just still feeling so in awe of the Throne of Glass series, but I just was not that into Quicksilver. Is it just me? I feel like everyone loved Quicksilver so much. I feel like I'm gonna share some like kind of unpopular opinions in this video, and I'm like a little bit nervous about it. Y'all, I don't know. Quicksilver just wasn't my favorite. Like, I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. When the next book comes out, I will probably still read it. I did like the characters a lot. I was so excited about it because people were like, this is the best, like so into it, so excited about it. There was nothing wrong with the book. I enjoyed it just fine. It just didn't hit me as like hard as I wanted it to hit me. And maybe that is just because like at this point in me getting back to reading, I was still kind of comparing everything to Throne of Glass, which is probably at this moment my favorite, or maybe even tied for my favorite book series. I think the thing with Throne of Glass is that I felt like we got a lot of world development and a lot of character development, and I feel like a lot of series kind of only do one or the other. Like, I kind of felt like in Quicksilver, we did get a good amount of like character development and growth and like relationship development, but I don't feel like we had a lot of development on like the world or like the magic system. So I don't know, if you've read Quicksilver, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments, because I still enjoyed it. Like, I still definitely give it like a 3 out of 5 stars. Like, it was still a really fun read. Maybe it's just because of the hype. Maybe it is just because I expected to just completely be head over heels for this book that I just felt slightly underwhelmed. I think that might sum up all my thoughts on Quicksilver. I'm like trying to think if there was anything else I wanted to share with y'all about Quicksilver. So I think I'm actually gonna take a little pause from filming, and while I finish this bauble of Quicksilver, I'm actually going to turn on the audiobook for my current read, which is Powerless. I am apparently 13 chapters into the book so far. I'm enjoying it so far, but we'll talk more about this in a bit. Quicksilver has officially been added to the Bookworm, y'all. As I was like finishing this up and stuffing it, I'm like, this is gonna get really long. Like, we're adding 4 more baubles today. Can you imagine this at the end of the year? This is only the 6-month update. This is only gonna be halfway done. And we're only a little more than halfway done with what we need to do. This is going, this is gonna be so ridiculous, oh my gosh. Now that we're done with Quicksilver, it is time to change colors because our next 2 books are both fantasy books, not fantasy with fae. And next we're going to be doing the Shepherd King duology. And y'all, I fear I might have some unpopular opinions about these books as well. But before we continue and dive into the next 2 baubles on our Bookworm, before it gets too late, let's grab Tilly, let's grab Josh, and let's run to the bookstore and buy more books. Even though, yes, I do already have books that I own on my TBR. But come on, we found out that there's a bookstore that lets you bring pets. We have to bring Tilly to a bookstore.
Hi, baby girl.
Do you want to go on an adventure?
Let's go get some books.
Good job getting on your new harness. Ready to get in your new little backpack? You can do it. Good job, Tilly. Good baby. Ready for an adventure. Good job. And you can see out of this one really well. So you're going to go to a bookstore with us and we're going to pick out a new book. Going on another adventure? Since we don't know exactly what we're walking into, we are going to zip her up as we walk in. And if it's all good, if there's not like a lot of dogs, and if she is for sure allowed to be in here, we will unzip her and let her look around the bookstore. We're not going to the VET, don't worry. This bookstore is so cute. How you doing, girl? Are you exploring a bookstore for the first time? Hi, baby. I know, how you doing? This is some good enrichment. This looks so good. Hey, Josh.
Hey.
Are you looking for any books?
I'm just trying to see what's out and new.
Same. That's something I like about them having like the recommendation wall over there. Seeing this, I was like, I think that's what it is. Maybe it's not. I don't know. Doesn't that kind of look like it's like these are highlighted? Tilly, do you want us to read you The Princess Bride? This is what I'm currently reading. I could go ahead and get the next couple books. I think I'm gonna like it enough to keep doing it. I don't know. Have you guys read Powerless? Should I finish the series? I just really don't want the hard copy. Maybe this is like a hot take or a controversial opinion, but I don't like hardcover books. I really like reading paperbacks. People keep telling me to read this. Just based on the cover, I think I'd love it.
Yeah, you've picked it up like a million times.
I know.
Every bookstore we walk through.
Okay, I'm gonna get it. Look at the purple edges.
It is really nice.
It's so cute, and it's a paperback because you know I don't really like reading hardbacks. Are you ready? Did you have a good little adventure at the bookstore? I can't tell if you look relaxed or annoyed. This is so cool. They have like a local authors section. Wait, I love this. This is so cool. Hi, Tilly, you ready to go home? Do we have a nice little excursion? Good job today. Did you do such a good job? Did you get some practice being in public? Did you meet a lot of new friends? Are you ready to go home now? Yeah, we'll go home now. Good job. For the way home, we went ahead and transitioned her into her little car seat. Ready to go home, girly? Yeah, home. This is the moment when we know she's relaxed in the car. She's getting all spread out. Do you know where we are? Yeah, you do. Good job, baby. Good job. We're home, baby. Bloop. Good job on your outing today. Immediate cleaning.
Ready to get off?
Let's take off your little harness. Good job. Good job, baby. Good job.
Good job.
Y'all, that was so much fun. Not only did I get 2 adorable new fantasy books that both actually do have cats on the cover. But also, like, we took Tilly to a bookstore. Everyone was so sweet. So many people came up and said hi to her. And y'all, she loved meeting new people. It was just so cute to see her like interact with everybody and just getting her used to being in a public space. We really want to do more traveling with Tilly. We want to do like hiking and more adventuring, and we eventually want to like get a van and turn it into like a living space to where we can travel in a van a lot. And we want to be able to bring Tilly with us. We want to get her really used to riding in her backpack, wearing a harness, going for walks. So we're trying to do more little excursions like this with her, just to kind of help her get used to it, help her get used to being in different spaces, different noises, different people. She seems to really enjoy it, and I think that it's really good enrichment, and it's definitely really good practice for us traveling with her in the future. So if you are looking for a pet-friendly bookstore in Nashville, we went to Parnassus, I believe it is pronounced. It's in like the Green Hills area of Nashville. It was so cute. They had so many options, and they were pet friendly, which just made my heart really happy. And I'm excited about these new books. Like, y'all, don't these just look like me? Like, I feel like these books just like look like me. Now, I am currently in the middle of 2 other series, which we will talk about that in a bit, so I probably won't get to these for a while, but honestly, these kind of feel like they're gonna be good like cozy fall reads, so maybe we'll dive into these in the fall. Up next, we are grabbing our green yarn for fantasy to add 1 dark window and 2 twisted crowns to our bookworm. So these 2 books make up the Shepherd King duology, and y'all, these books came so highly recommended to me. Even like y'all in the comments have been telling me how much you love these books. I don't know if this was just still me struggling to get back into reading, or if I just still really genuinely was not like captivated by these books. It kind of felt the same as Quicksilver. It's like I enjoyed them, but I was not just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I kind of described it like this to a friend. It's like normally when I'm reading throughout the day, I will be thinking about my book, thinking about the characters. I feel excited to get back to my book and read that night. And I don't know, with Quicksilver and the Shepherd King duology, it just felt like while I was reading, I was enjoying the books. But during the day, I wasn't just like so excited to get back to my book and read. I never felt like on the edge of my seat, just like dying to know what happened next. I was just like, yeah, these are fun books to read, but I wasn't just like completely enthralled, if that makes any sense. I literally think it took me longer to read the Shepherd King duology than it's taken me to read a book in like years. Like, I want to say I started those books in April. It might have been April, and I literally didn't finish them until like a week ago. I have felt so bad on every live stream. Y'all would be asking me, when are we getting a Bookworm update? What books are you reading? And I would just still be like, we're still on the Shepherd King duology. We're still reading these. And y'all are kind of like, wait, still? It's been months. I'm not a super fast reader anyways, and I've definitely had times in my life when I've just like taken my time to get through a book because like I've just been really busy or I just had to take big breaks from reading. But I don't know, with Quicksilver and then with the Shepherd King duology, it just kind of felt like I wasn't excited enough to get back to the books, and that's why it took me so long to read them. I will say that the Shepherd King duology was beautifully written. I literally love the prose of these books. If you are someone who really enjoys poetry and almost honestly like riddles, you might really like the way that these books are written. Like, even though they weren't my absolute favorite, they are still really good books and really enjoyable. I still give them like a 2.5, honestly, maybe even like 3 stars. They're still very enjoyable. But for me, it really was just that feeling that like I wasn't super excited to get back to my book every night. You know, like when I'm reading a book, I really want it to be like, oh my gosh, I can't put this down. I'm so excited. I want to get back to the book. I want to read more. And these just weren't that for me. Now, I've talked to friends who, oh my goodness, this was like everything for them. They love it. A friend of a friend even got like lines from these books tattooed. Like, people genuinely love these books. So this might just be me. I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. If you have read the Shepherd King duology, did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you love it? Now, speaking of dying to get back to a book, I'm gonna go work on these next 2 baubles, and I'm gonna turn on my audiobook because I'm actually really enjoying Powerless. I'm really enjoying it so far. We'll see. I'm like genuinely cracking up at how fast this is getting ginormous. Like, y'all remember at the end of the first video, it was only 3 baubles long? Like, this is going to be giant by the end of the year. This is kind of hysterical. So I just finished adding One Dark Window and Two Twisted Crowns, also known as the Shepherd King duology, and it's time to move on to the book that finally really got me out of my reading slum. Like, obviously, like I said, I had started reading again, but y'all, oh my gosh, I don't know if I have ever devoured a book the way I devoured Silver Elite. So if you saw my Dollywood vlog from last year, you might know that every year Josh and I go with his family to the Smokies. We go to Dollywood. It's like super fun. We get a cabin. Well, Josh's sister is like my best friend, and she is also really into like fantasy, sci-fi, romantasy, dystopian novels. We have like the same taste in books. And she brought me Silver Elite, and she recently joined the Book of the Month Club. Book of the Month Club, is that what it's called? And one of the books that she got through the Book of the Month Club was Silver Elite, and she loved it. And she brought it to the cabin for me, and she was like, you don't understand, like, you're just gonna love this book, you're gonna love it. And I was like, okay, I only have a few chapters left of the Shepherd King duology. Let me just knock that out, then I can start the Silver Elite. So the first night that we were in the cabin, I finished the Shepherd King duology. I liked it. I liked the ending just fine. And I was like, you know, it'd be kind of fun to go ahead and start this book this week, be able to talk to her about it throughout the week while we're all hanging out. And oh my gosh, the first night of reading this book, I just started flying through it. And I literally think that I finished the book in like the first 3 days of the vacation, maybe. Y'all, Silver Elite is literally the book that I credit with getting me out of my reading slump. It was one of those books that like you just can't stop thinking about, and you just want to know what's going to happen next, and you don't want to put it down. And it's that just one more chapter kind of a book. And I just hadn't had a just one more chapter kind of a book in a while, and so I can't even tell you how refreshing it was just to kind of feel like super excited about reading again. Silver Elite's a pretty new book, so if you haven't heard of Silver Elite yet, it is like a romance dystopian novel. So for dystopian novels, we are switching to red. I kind of hate that red and green are going together. It's like giving me Christmas vibes, but it's fine. It's getting to the point where like I don't even know how to put all of this on camera at the same time. Wait, maybe I can make it look like a wiggly worm. Stop. Oh my gosh. I think something like this needs to be the thumbnail of this video. Like, this is so cute. I'm so excited. Have I told y'all how I'm planning on displaying our bookworm yet? I don't think I have. I am currently working on my dream craft room, so expect a lot of like remodeling content, woodworking content. My dad and I are going to be building like all of the cabinets, all the bookshelves, the workspace table, all of it, and I'm going to be organizing all of it and decorating all of it. So a lot of craft room content coming up. And as I'm sure you're probably aware, I have like an absurd amount of yarn, and so I knew I wanted a really cool way to like display all of the yarn. And I saw on Pinterest that people basically use pegboards to display the yarn. So it's going to be all the cakes of yarn all over the wall, and then they're like attached to the wall with the pegboards. I hope that makes sense. I'll like insert some photos to like try to explain better. But I'm thinking I can actually make the worm wiggle in and out in between the yarn. So picture like the wall covered in yarn, and then I use pegs to attach the worm to the wall also, and he kind of looks like that, like curling around all the yarn. Like, wouldn't that be so cute? I have another question about our worm. He needs a mouth, right? What color should I make the mouth? Should it be like red mouth or black? Or I even thought about like this dark purple. Let me know what your thoughts are on his mouth, because I definitely think he needs a mouth. It's time to add the last bauble of the first 6 months. Oh my gosh. Oh, hi, Tilly. Are you coming to grace us with your presents? Hi. Oh, did you have a good time at the bookstore today? Did you get lots of pets and meet lots of people? So Tilly does this thing where she like needs people to pay attention to her. And we first noticed it whenever we were visiting my parents, and my dad said goodnight to every person in the room. He said like, goodnight to my mom, goodnight to me, goodnight to Josh. And he didn't say goodnight to Tilly, and she just like walked over and just stared at him as he left the room. And I was like, Dad, you didn't say goodnight to Tilly. And she just looked so devastated. And he came back over and he was like, oh, did I not say goodnight to you? And he said goodnight to her, and she was just so happy, just so proud. And it happened today. So after we left the bookstore, we went through a drive-thru, and She's so used to like if we go through a drive-through, whoever's in the drive-through is like, oh my gosh, you have a cat. She's so cute. What's her name? Can I pet her? Well, the person at the drive-through today just didn't, oh, you done? Just like didn't acknowledge her. And she literally just like is staring at this person, and she looks at me and she stares at the person, and then she sits down and like puts her head like she's pouting on her little headrest in her car seat. Now I could be misinterpreting all of this, but I don't think I am. Pretty sure she was literally like hurt that the person didn't say hi to her. But at the next window, the person made all over her and she got a bunch of highs and she was so happy and she's wagging her tail like, okay, yay, she saw me. It was really cute. So like I had said earlier, on Josh's family vacation, his sister brought me Silver Elite to read and I completely devoured it. I did end up getting the ebook as well because there were some times that I couldn't have the book with me that I wanted to keep reading it. So, but honestly, I'm glad I went ahead and bought it because I'm probably going to end up rereading it before the next book comes out. I think it's going to end up being a trilogy. And it's one of those books that like I definitely loved enough to read again, but more than that, I read it so quickly. I feel like I'm going to need to probably read it again before I read the next book, if that makes any sense. But the majority of the time I was reading the physical book, and it honestly just like reminded me how much I love reading physical books. So while we were in the Smoky Mountains with Josh's family, me and Josh and his dad went to a bookstore, and it was the weirdest bookstore I've ever been to in my entire life. This store was literally a moon pie and bookstore. So it was like moon pies. Do you guys know what moon pies are? They're like a cake thing, kind of. They're not Little Debbie, but they're kind of like a Little Debbie kind of cake thing. So it literally had every kind of moon pie you could possibly imagine, and then books. It was the weirdest store I've ever been to, and we had so much fun. And while we were there, I went ahead and picked up my next 2 reads. And so the next book we're going to be adding to the Bookworm is The Poppy War. The Poppy War was literally one of Time Magazine's 100 best fantasy books of all time. And since this is fantasy, we are going back to green. So I went into The Poppy War knowing nothing about it except that people said it was incredible. And y'all, it was literally one of the most amazing books I have ever read. But I have to say, I do kind of wish that I went into it with a content warning. And I don't just mean like an age rating, because like honestly, y'all, like all the books that we talked about today are like adult books. Like these are like 18+ books. But this, even if you're an adult going into reading this book, I would still look up a content warning before going into it. And I feel like I have a pretty high tolerance for reading certain things, but I did almost have to quit reading the book a few times. And as much as I loved this book, I still genuinely give it 5 stars. I think it's an incredible book. I had to take a pause before going on to book 2 and book 3. So for book 2 and 3, I did a little research and I, kind of asked the question of, does it get more intense or less intense? It does get more intense apparently in book 2 and book 3. And so I had to be really honest with myself. And as much as I do really want to know where this story goes, it's not something that I could emotionally handle right now. And so the next book that you've seen that we have already started reading is Powerless. And this, from my understanding, is considered a young adult book. Even today in the bookstore, we were looking at these books and they were in the young adult section. So far, it's kind of giving like Hunger Games with magical powers, and I'm obviously like devouring it. I've been going back and forth the last few days with like reading this and listening to the audiobook, and I'm just like really enjoying it so far. I am a little worried about the Powerless series though. I've had a couple friends tell me that they loved the first book, and then the second book not as much, and then they hated the third book, and I'm like kind of worried about it. But then again, that's what people said about the Divergent series, and I will completely die on the hill that the last Divergent book is the best book by far. Everyone hates the last Divergent book. I think it is chef's kiss. I think it is incredible, and I will literally die on that hill. But since I am not done with Powerless yet, we will not be adding it to the Bookworm just yet. Today we are just going to finish the video by adding the Poppy War. I'm probably gonna have to get more green soon because the Poppy War is general fantasy and Powerless is also going to be general fantasy. I'm definitely going to need some more of this green yarn. I'm sure some people are wondering about this, about the audiobook and the book. And so I'm going to talk about that for a minute. And I'm also going to ask you guys some questions about your preferred style of reading. So if I had to choose one way of reading, my favorite reading format is audiobooks. I have been an audiobook girly my entire life. Like whenever I was a kid, I used to go to the library and I would rent audiobooks on cassette tape. And then I would like walk with my Walkman and listen to my audiobooks. I'm sorry, some of y'all might not even know what I'm talking about, but if you know, you know. Oh my gosh, and sidebar, Josh recently found an old Walkman like mine at a flea market for like 20 bucks, and so he actually bought me an old Walkman. I really want to go buy some like audiobook cassette tapes now and like listen to them. I think it would be really, really funny to like listen to an audiobook completely in my original medium of listening to audiobooks. So anyways, my number one preferred way of reading is audiobooks. I love audiobooks so much. But the way I like listening to audiobooks the most is listening while reading the physical book. And like I mentioned in the bookstore earlier, I actually don't like hardback books. That might be like a controversial opinion, but I'm just not a hardback book girly for so many reasons. Okay, for one, I hate book sleeves. These are called book sleeves. I always get them tangled. I always mess them up. I always end up using them as bookmarks, which I'm sure is like a huge no-no, but I just don't like them. Like, obviously hardback books like are nice to look at and they're like pretty and they look good on the shelf, but I just don't feel like they're comfortable to read. Like, I usually am reading like laying in bed. If I'm sitting on the couch or in my reading chair, like I'm fine reading a hardback book, but I'm usually reading in bed before I go to sleep. And I love having a good paperback book. Y'all, look at the spine of this book. I don't break my spines before I start, but as I'm reading, I like really do this. Like, I love having paperback books and just like really being able to like open them and like read it like flat like this, being able to like hold it in one hand. This is how I read. I don't know if that's another huge like taboo for reading, but that's the way that I read. So I think my preferred like reading types in order are audiobooks, then paperback books, then e-reader, then hardback books. You guys will have to let me know in the comments below. I know I've talked about this in the past, but my favorite way of doing like completely immersive reading, like if I want to be completely engulfed in a world, I will literally be listening to the audiobook. I'll be reading along on my Kindle or on the physical book, and then in the background, and I actually have this on my TV right now behind you guys, in the background, I will have ambiance for whatever world I am currently reading. So you can literally look up like Fourth Wing reading ambiance on YouTube, or like ACOTAR, or like whatever book series that you are currently reading, Powerless, whatever it is, there will be reading ambiance videos. And it's so cool. So like, I know I'm not currently reading ACOTAR, but I just really like the vibe of this one. So I actually have on like a night court library reading ambiance video right now while I'm reading. And I don't know, it just makes me so happy. It's so cozy. So like my perfect night of reading is definitely listening to the audiobook, reading along on a paperback book, having the ambiance video on in the background, having a candle lit, having the lights kind of dim. It's literally just an unparalleled reading experience. Everyone kept telling me that the Bookworm was going to be ridiculous, but I was like, it's not going to be that crazy. I don't know why I couldn't visualize like how big it's actually going to be by the end of the year. I think another thing is I don't do reading goals. Like, everyone in the beginning was asking me, well, how many books are you going to read this year? How many books? I don't do reading goals ever. I don't feel like it's healthy for me personally. I also like usually just don't even count how many books I read in a year. I feel like I read somewhere between 1 book a week and 1 book a month. Like, so far this year, we're halfway through the year, I've read 11 books. That's like a little bit less than 2 books a month. So I don't read like a crazy amount of books, but I still read a good amount of books. Y'all, look at this bookworm. This bookworm is gonna be so big by the end of the year. Wait, I have to see if he's taller than me. Do you think he's taller than me? Okay, literally 1 more book and our bookworm will be taller than me. Do you know what else our bookworm needs? Our bookworm needs a name. We have been calling him Bernie the Bookworm. Do we like that? Do we like Bernie the Bookworm? I think it's my favorite so far, but if y'all have a name that you think our bookworm needs, definitely let us know in the comments. Are you Bernie? I think he's Bernie. What do we think? Do we think he's a Bernie? Do y'all remember in the background of my really old streams that I used to have a life-size doll version of myself that Little Caesars made me? If you have no idea what I'm talking about, it is the weirdest PR I've ever been sent. Little Caesars sent me a life-size stuffed version of me to promote their stuffed cheesy crust. And for years, that doll sat behind me on my live streams, and I feel like the worm is the new version of that. This is honestly slightly less creepy. As much as I appreciated the sentiment of the doll, having a life-size doll of myself was Very, very, very interesting. Our worm is very cute though. You're very, very cute. I don't know if he's a Bernie. You guys, I've been really thinking he's a Bernie. And now just like seeing him, he's such a little sour gummy worm, isn't he? Doesn't he just look like such a sour gummy worm? Oh my gosh, what's his name? Oh my gosh, okay, I don't know, y'all. Let me know in the comments what you think the name of our bookworm is. And also let me know what you're currently reading. Let me know what you think I should read next. My next few reads, I'm assuming, are going to be finishing the Powerless series, assuming I keep liking it, and finishing the Poppy War series, assuming I can emotionally read it, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'll alternate. Maybe I'll go from Powerless to Poppy War, Powerless to Poppy War, since they're both trilogies. I could probably do that. And then it would kind of like split up the heavy stuff a little bit. I'm also really excited about these 2 new books that we picked up today. Y'all kept telling me to read The Spell Shop, and honestly, just based on the cover and the purple edges, like, I'm sold. And then Homegrown Magic had the cutest cover, so I picked it up. And then when I read the back of it, there was a quote that said, "Beautifully written, wildly original, and impossibly charming. Homegrown Magic is the gorgeous queer fantasy I didn't know I needed." And I was sold. So I'm really excited to read Homegrown Magic and to read The Spell Shop. Let me know if you've read either of these. I feel like they're both gonna be pretty cozy, and I honestly haven't read that many cozy books, so I'm excited to kind of dive in. I'm trying to get the whole bookworm in the shot for the last part of the video. Well, sunflowers, I think that brings us to the end of another video. Thank you for coming along with us again on another silly adventure of updating our bookworm, taking Tilly to her first ever bookshop. Today was just a really, really fun day, and I love books, I love crocheting, and I love talking about books and talking about crocheting. So this was a really, really fun and calming video for me to make, and I hope it was also fun and calming for you to watch. If you're new here, welcome to the Sunflower family. My name is Auna. We do new videos every single Monday. Sometimes they're crocheting, sometimes it's about books, sometimes it's cat videos, Renaissance festivals, DIY, basically everything cozy and quirky. And I'm really not sure when we're gonna do our next bookworm video. I know for months y'all were asking me for an update when I had only read like 1 new book or 2 new books, and I kept saying I wanted to wait until I read at least 3 new books before I did an update, and I ended up reading 5 new books so I could get y'all a nice big update. What do you think? Do you think we should maybe do another update in the fall and then another update at the end of the year? Should I just wait and do 1 big update at the end of the year? Should I do a bunch of little shorts updates? Let me know in the comments how often y'all want bookworm updates, but I personally kind of liked doing it all at once rather than just like 1 piece at a time. This was really fun to just do the entire thing at once and be able to like talk about all of the books that I read this year with you guys. But I don't know, maybe I should do more shorts updates in the meantime. Let me know what y'all think. Anyways, once again, y'all, welcome to the Sunflower family. My name is Auna, and we do new videos every single Monday. So we hope to see you in the next one.